All right, go ahead and let's welcome everybody back to part 2 of slope and rate of change. If I'm looking here, now we're on to the important parts. Well, I mean, all it's important, but now it's kind of the real world time of things, right? Find and interpret the slope for each real world situation. The graph shows the relationship between a person's age and his or her estimated maximum heart rate. Now, go back to the whole independent and dependent variable things. Remember that on my x-axis, this is my independent variable. My y-axis is my dependent variable. In other words, the age is what determines what happens with the heart rate. Now that I remember that, or kind of thought that through, let's go ahead. I've got 2 points here. Let's call this x1, y1, and x2, y2. Knowing the slope formula, this is like, well, we could do it the way we've done it is m equals y2, which is 150, minus y1, which is 180, divided by x2, 50 minus x1, which is 20, negative 30 divided by 30. Well, that simplifies to negative 1 over 1. Now, remember that thing I just said a minute ago, that the independent kind of determines what happens to the dependent variable. If I change something in independent, that's what changes what happens in the dependent. So the way I want to think about writing this interpretation is, notice how I've kind of kept this, right? Remember, this is our change in y, this is our change in x. If I change 1 in y, if I change that positive 1 in y, or I'm sorry, in x, what is that? Oh, that's years. If I increase a year, if I increase 1 year, I decrease by 1 beat per minute. For every year a person's age increases, his or her maximum heart rate decreases by 1, like we just said, right? When I change x, what happens to the y? I change the x. If I have 1 year of increase, that's 1 beat per minute decrease. Let's go ahead and look at another example. The height of a plant y in centimeters after x days. So in other words, if I change a day, what happens to the height? That's what we're going to have here, right? The points are 30, 15, and 40, 25. I'm going to go ahead and do my own. Treat this as x1, y1, and x2, y2. So I can do y2, so 25 minus y1, which is 15, divided by x2, which is 40, minus x1, which is 30. 25 minus 15 is 10. 40 minus 30 is also 10. And 10 divided by 10 is 1 divided by 1, which is 1. Our slope is 1, which means if I increase in x, if I increase by 1 in x, when x is days, so increase in 1 day, increase by 1 day, an increase by 1 day leads to a height, leads to the plant growing by 1 centimeter. Leads to the plant growing by 1 centimeter. Notice how it's, again, the x causes the y. A 1 day increase causes a 1 centimeter height increase. Okay. With that said, you know what time it is. Go ahead and take a look at your turn, numbers 11 and 12. Hit pause if you're on YouTube, or it'll pause for you on Edpuzzle. All right, find and interpret the slope. The graph shows the relationship between the temperature expressed in Fahrenheit and the temperature expressed in Celsius. Let's go ahead, and we got to find our slope, right? Pick one to be x1, y1. Pick one to be x2, y2. If I do that, my slope I've picked my y2 as 25 minus my y1 is 10 divided by my x2, which is 77 minus my x1, which is 50. Let's see what we get to simplify to. We've got this 15 divided by 27. Can I simplify that further? Yeah, absolutely. I can divide them both by 3, right? This simplifies to 5/7. Remember, it's the change in y over the change in x. But as we interpret this, we want to say that this change in x causes this change in y. So our change in x is 7 degrees Fahrenheit. A change in Fahrenheit, in degrees Fahrenheit, of 7 degrees, causes or indicates a change in y. And what's our y? Temperature in Celsius. A change in degrees Celsius of 5. Our change in x indicates our change in y. Okay, let's try the next one. The number of cubic feet water, y. There we go. We know what our y is. X hours. So we're going to say a change in hours causes this or indicates this change in reservoir. We've got X again. X is hours. So this is going to be like X1, Y1 and X2, Y2. Slope once again. M is Y2 minus Y1 or 4,000 minus 3,000 divided by X2, which is 60 minus 40 because that's X1. Let's simplify this. I get 1,000 divided by 20. Let's see, this ends up being 50. 50, you can say, think about it as 50 divided by 1. It's not a bad idea to have that divided by 1 if you can. So what's the interpretation? A change in X, a change in X is 1 hour. A change in 1 hour indicates a change of 50 what? What was y again? 50 cubic feet of water. Notice how we did that? We found our rate of change or our slope. We said a change in the x indicates a change in this y. In this example, a change of 1 hour indicated a change of 50 cubic feet of water. It increased. It's a positive slope. That is the end of part 2. We have all we need to knock this thing out. Ask questions, work hard. We got you. Take care.